again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Morty and Glory video. In today's episode, we shall once more be casting our ever critical eye over the 10th edition Imperial Guard datasheets. And once again, we shall be dipping our toes into the murky, fetid water of Forge World. I don't know why I describe it like that. I actually quite like Forge World and Forge World models. But anyway, moving on. We have the Crassus. This is a transport, a very big transport. And traditionally, it's been a bit of a meme. And it has been overshadowed somewhat by the Deathcore of Krieg Gorgon. But now might just be the Crassus's time. I think that there are some genuine tactics that can be employed to make this not only decent, but actually viable on the tabletop. I know, a very bold Mordian Glory claim, but I said it. And you know what? I think I've got to prove it. It's time for me to back up my words with some more words. Let us get aboard the Crassus, drive to the front lines, and disembark right into today's episode. As is tradition, let us begin with a brief overview of what the hell a Crassus actually is. Basically, it's a really big transport. If you've always found like the Taurox and the Chimera to be a little bit wimpy, you know, toughness 8, toughness 9, not really chonker enough for you, but you don't want to go up to like a super heavy, like a Stormlord, and then you're spending a quarter of your army on just a big meme transport. If you wanted something that was a very durable transport that could carry a lot of dudes and actually be durable, then the Crassus is for you. It's like a Leman Russ and a Rogel Dawn had a baby and it has no guns, but it can have a lot of people inside it. That explanation probably doesn't help you at all. You know what? The best way of explaining the Crassus is actually to go through its numbers and its stat lines. Let's begin with that unit profile. It has a movement value of 10, which is awesome. It keeps it in line with the other guard vehicles, means it's not going to get left behind by your motor pool. And they could have given it like movement 9, which would have been a bit of a pisser because any messing around with movement or transport is going to make them less good at their job. But no, movement 10, not great, not terrible, just what we need to make sure that it can do its transportation effectively. Then we get to the big deal, T11. That's as much T as a Leman Russ. And that's a lot of T. Plus, it's got a 2+ save, which definitely helps. Essentially, unless you're going to have las cannons shooting at this thing, it's probably going to go where it needs to go. And so far, it's like so Leman Russ, right? But this is where we get to the Rogel Dawn bit. 18 wounds. 18! That's an insane amount of wounds for this thing. I mean, it's a big tank, so it probably deserves the 18 wounds. But combine that with the toughness, with the save, with the decent movement, and you are definitely getting from point A to point B. Leadership 7 is so-so, same as every unit in the Guard. OC 5, not actually bad. Definitely don't overlook that thing. OC of 5 means that when it gets to the objective where you want to disgorge the platoon, it can actually help a little bit with making sure that that objective stays in your control. At the end of the day, if someone puts 5 Terminators on an objective and you take the Crassus and put that on objective, that's a contested objective. But moving on to its unit composition and equipment, the Crassus comes with 4 heavy bolters. That's it. And you can't swap them out for anything. You will take your heavy bolters and you will like it. Oh, you want flamers to help embrace the vibe of clearing objectives? Well, tough titties. You will not have any heavy flamers. You will be stuck with your 4 heavy bolters. I think this is one of the only vehicles in the Guard motor pool where you can't swap out a heavy bolter for a heavy flamer. Let me know if you know of another instance of this. It's strange. I swear you used to be able to take other weapons, but now in 10th edition, it's heavy bolters and that's it. You can choose to give it a heavy stubber or a storm bolter, but you're going to give it the heavy stubber every time because that's just frankly the better weapon. So once you have equipped your Crassus with all of the mandatory DACA, You then get to take a look at its abilities. And this is really where things start kicking up. Because the heavy bolters and stuff, they're just there because I think GW felt obligated to give it some guns. But honestly, if it didn't have any, you probably wouldn't be that upset, because the real reason you're taking this thing is its abilities. Firstly, you have fire support. In your shooting phase, after this model has shot, select one enemy unit that was hit by one or more of those attacks. Until the end of the phase, each time a friendly model that disembarked from this transport this turn makes an attack that targets the enemy unit, you can reroll the wound roll. That is bloody brilliant. That is really, really spot on. That's great. Another unit that has this ability is the Taurox Prime, and it makes Scions really, really good. Well, guess what? Now, you don't have to be a Scion to benefit from the Taurox Prime's fire support. You can be any old guardsman you want, and you can go for it. You can have full rerolls to wound. Full rerolls to wound is like just giving a whole boatload of guys twin linked. I mean, think about this. You could take Oghren. Think about stuffing this thing with Oghren and just driving it forward and then jumping out, and the Oghren having full rerolls to wound. That's 36 Ripper gunshots with full rerolls to wound. You could take a goddamn platoon of Kazakin, put them in this thing, and give them full rerolls to wound. Kazakin don't mind being a transport and not getting an order because they already hit on 3s. You could combine this with something like your Scout Sentinels, and you could have Kazakin running around with reroll 1s to hit, full rerolls to wound. But you don't even need to take something that's overly fancy. You could stuff this full of basic infantry. Even Katjans and Flamers are going to start piling on the hurt when they've got full rerolls to wound on those Flamer weapons. What about Krieg with all of the specials? All the plasma, all the melter, all the grenade launchers. Suddenly they've got all rerolls to wound. That is awesome. Also, it's important to note that whilst it's natural to think of this ability in terms of, well, I'm going to start off in the transport and then I'm going to get out and do my damage, you can always embark in transports mid-game. It's something that a lot of people don't bother doing, and there's reasons why, but I've always found that if you do have an opportunity to get back in a transport, it's never actually a bad thing to do, because you can then start reusing abilities. Imagine if you had a couple of Krieg units and they've lost a guy from each squad and they jump inside the Crassus, then next turn they jump out. Not only are they hitting on 3s, not only might they have +1 to wound if they're below half strength, but they also might now get full re-rolls to wound as well. There's a lot of utility you can get from this ability, and at the end of the day, getting more re-rolls equals doing more damage. But the big question, the only one that really matters, is how many people can a Crassus transport?
Attention guardsmen, this is an announcement by the Departamento Militarum. Element Games is an official sponsor of the Mordian Glory channel. They offer up to 20% off Warhammer 40k and 10% off Bolt Action and other game systems. Use the link down in the description to save money and support the channel. Anyone not using the link will be referred to the local commissariat. Also, don't forget that if you use referral code TIM3921, then you will receive double store credit, saving even more money on your future purchases. That's all for now. Fallout!
And it's quite a lot. It's 35. 35 Astra Militarum infantry models with the usual caveats. The heavy weapon teams take up 2, Oghrens take up 3, and you can't run around with fobs or other artillery in the back, okay? Now that's a really big deal because it means you can have a full mob of Kazakin, 30 of them in there. You can take multiple squads of Ogres in there. They're all going to start benefiting from those rerolls to wound. It means you can take a big mob of like 20 Deathcore Krieg, put a command squad in there and still have room left over for something else you might want to put in there. Maybe some more infantry. Maybe you mix it up and you go half Kazakin, half Deathcore. My point is that 35 gives you a lot of options. Obviously, that's a lot of infantry that can benefit from rerolls, but it's important to note the next thing, which is it's a lot of objective control. If you take 30 infantry and you put a command squad in there, so that 20-man blob's got extra OC thanks to the regimental standard of the command squad, then you could drive up to an objective. Bear in mind, your Crassus has got a 10-inch move. You could move it so it goes 13 inches, but not advanced. And then the infantry can get out 3 inches. So that's a 16-inch threat range. 16 inches where your guys can get out. That's going to get you into the middle of the board. That is a huge amount of objective control you can just dump onto an objective. From the 20-man squad with the command squad alone, you'd be looking at, what, 70? And then the extra 10-man squad, you're looking at another 20. That is 90 OC that you can dump onto a mid-objective. And if they're Deathcore Krieg, they're going to be pretty durable with things like the Medipacks and stuff. And don't forget, you can spend a CP for Inspired Command to give your 20-man blob either duty and honor to be even more objective control to really make sure your opponents can't get their hands on it. Or if you want to make sure that you're a bit more resistant to that firepower, you could dump them onto the objective and go for take cover. Hell, it even lends credence to going for something like an infantry squad, which gets the benefit of cover for being on an objective. So you drive forward, platoon command squad, 20-man blob, you jump out on the objective, you've got the benefit of cover, then you take cover in the opponent's turn. You see what I mean? Like, it's just... The Crassus feels like a way of just going, that objective, that's mine, you're not getting it unless you're really, really dedicated. Unless you absolutely, positively push everything you can from one flank onto that objective, that's going to be mine. I'm going to lock that down with all the OC I can muster. And it's just inside this one transport. But here's the thing. You might take more than one Crassus because they're genuinely not that expensive. They're only 180 points. That makes them a good deal. That actually makes them in contention, able to compete with their equivalent points spent on Chimeras. You see, 180 points is a little bit more than 2 Chimeras. It's kind of halfway between 2 and 3 Chimeras, okay? Now, if you take a Crassus, you're getting the same amount of decent firepower as you are from the Chimeras because it's got 4 heavy bolters, and 2 Chimeras have also got 4 heavy bolters. Yes, you're missing out on the Lad's Gunner raise. Yes, you're missing out on a heavy stubber, but they're really chip damage here and there. The main Daka you get from the Chimeras is the turret and the hull weapon. So you've got decent firepower, and yet you've got also more carrying capacity than those Chimeras. It's tricky, and I can definitely see players arguing for and against and going, no, the Crassus is more like 3 Chimeras. At that point, it's going to be less firepower with the same amount of transport capacity, but it's kind of halfway between the two, you see. So I feel like the Crassus is actually decently priced. It could transport a hell of a lot of people. It's got the firepower to keep pace with other dedicated transports, and it also acts as a really big force multiplier. And you guys know that I get a hard-on for force multipliers. Overall, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I see the Crassus as semi-competitive. It's a viable alternative to taking 2 or 3 Chimeras. It actually could be included in your list, and if you support it properly, you have a good game plan, and you think carefully about what units are going to be in there and what those units are going to do, you might be able to make it work. I'm not saying you're going to win a tournament with the Crassus. I'm not going to say it's going to be the main reason you do well at a tournament with the Crassus, but it's definitely not holding you back, and it's definitely got some interesting points in its favor. Of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you think that the Crassus is viable, or are you going to stick with your Chimera fleet? If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian Glory Hole, Today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and Patreons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the Call of Duty. So a massive thank you to Bonbon Vert, Mad Larkin, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, August Vardy, and the Tommies. Thank you guys. Your incredible support makes a huge difference, and it is a big part of how I'm able to do Mordian Glory full time. But that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.